Here are 20 sales reports I think you need to know, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how to set up each one of these sales reports. So the first report that I want to look at is the average time to close a deal. Now, this takes into consideration the time between a new lead being created all the way to when they're closed won. All right. So we need to track the time when the lead's created and then push that tracking over from the lead onto the deal and then only when the deal is closed. So we're going to start off in the leads area here. And then we've got this date created column. Now, weirdly, this is already created, but essentially what we're looking to do is log when a new item is created. So we've got a date column and we'll just call this lead created. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to restrict the column editing and then hide the column summary. So if you're doing this in, let's say, Salesforce, you need to make sure, or let's say HubSpot, when the lead is created, that data point is being logged automatically. So we've got lead created here. We're just going to automate in the top right-hand corner. If Monday's going to let me. Freaks out all the time. And go create automation. And then what we're going to do is just say when item is created, set date, and then we're going to set the date lead created to today, right? So then we've got the lead created date. And then what would happen is when the lead is converted to a deal, so you go through the qualification process and then a deal's created, we'll obviously have a deal date created. But what we want to do is we want to push over the lead created date onto a column on the deals board. Okay, so we're going to press more columns again, and I'm just going to search lead, search date column. I'm just going to add a new date column, and this date column is going to be called our lead created. All right. So what we obviously want to be doing is mapping over the data from the lead to the deal. Lead created, we hide the column summary and then restrict the column editing. Hide the column summary and then restrict the column editing as the data is being pulled across from the leads board. And then I'm just going to put in like literally just something random here. And then what we want to do is we want to have a formula column that works out the amount of time between the lead created and the date closed, which is obviously when that particular deal is closed as one. So we would have a formula. So I press the plus button again, more columns, and then formula. Now in Salesforce, for example, if you're doing this in Salesforce, you would need to create a formula in the actual reports function, but it's slightly different in monday.com. And then again, I'm not too sure in HubSpot. So I'm just going to use the AI assistant here and just say, give me the difference in days between lead created and date closed. Hit enter. There we go. Good job, Mr. AI. And then we've got 20. Oh dear. Let's just fix that. Let's go 27. So now, so we've got lead to closed time, days. And then I'm just going to, again, you can hide the column summary and then we can restrict the column editing on this. And then what I'm going to do is now we've got this data, we can create a report on it, right? So we can go to our sales dashboard, bottom left-hand corner, create our first widget, plus button. And then in this instance, it's going to be a numbers column. And then we're going to say average time. Oh, what's going on? Average time to, oh no, close a deal. Okay, spelling shocking, morning slow as per usual. So we go settings, and then what we're looking for is we want the board, we want the deals board in this particular instance, and then numbers column we want 1 by 1, and then we want lead to close days, and then we can just go to customize, go to the right hand side, add it as days, and then we probably want an average, and then we want it to be manual, and we only want, we don't want any decimal places. So now I know that the average amount of time from a lead coming into the business to actually closing as one is 37 days. If I actually just go to settings here and just go to groups, the only group that I want here is obviously the close one group. Just forgot to mention that. So if I change this status or just drag this into the group one, and then we, let's say, duplicate this. Oh dear, very glitchy this morning. Without updates yet, sure. And then lead created and then date created, and then that's probably date closed. Let's say this is going to be the 4th. We've got lead closed is 14 days for this deal, 37 for this one. Then our sales dashboard reflects 26 days, the average time it takes to close a particular deal. So now I know if I spend X amount of money to acquire X amount of leads, I know that on average, I'm going to get my money back within 26 days. So that's just a really important metric that we want to be tracking. What's the average time? And this is also really important for forecasting as well. So if I say on average, it takes 26 days to close a deal, then I can forecast way into the future of like what's in our pipeline at the moment based on the average, how many, and then we can look at conversion rates as well. What's my forecasted value for the month of July, August, September, October, so on and so forth. So, that's obviously a really helpful thing to take into consideration. Now, that brings me on nicely to our second report, which is like the forecasted value in the pipeline. Okay. Now, we've got a couple of options here. We can obviously do this by literally just the total amount of forecasted value in the pipeline, which is based on the expected close date, or in this instance, it'd just be based on the status of the deal or the lead versus the value. Now, if you want to do forecasted value by month, then we would need the expected close date, which could be taken from an average, or just to keep it simple, let's assume that the sales rep has said we expect them to close in 2 months' time, for example, and the percentage conversion or the percentage probability of conversion based on the status column, and then the actual value of the deal itself. So 3 components or 2 components, dependent on how you want to do this. So we'll probably do both in this video. So we'll head over to our deals board, and then you can see here we've got our deal value. Okay, so this is the value associated with this particular deal. Now, in order to work out forecasted value, we need a conversion probability. Now, the best way to do that is either via stage. Oh, there we go. If we click into stage here. So if it's new, it's 10%, discovery, it's 20%, proposal, 30%, negotiation, 60%, 100%, lost, obviously 0%. Or you could just have the sales rep enter it in manually. Now, in this particular instance, I'm just going to do it based on stage. So if we go to the plus button, add more columns, and then we want to add a formula column, and then drag this across. I'm just going to reposition this here just to keep it simple. And I'm going to tell the AI assistant, when the stage is equal to new, give me 10% of the deal value. Hit enter. There we go. And that should then add set formula. So when the stage is equal to new, it will give me 10% of the deal value. And then I'll just set this as a value now. Okay. And then I would hide the column summary, and I'll just call this forecast value. Okay. And then, again, more spelling errors this morning. And then the next thing we need to take into consideration is obviously the date. But to start with, if we wanted to, we could just use the forecasted value, right? So we could say, if we go to our sales dashboard, add another widget, and we'll add another numbers column, and then we'll just call this forecasted pipeline. And then this is going to show me our active forecasted pipeline by our deals board. So if I remove the leads, because we don't need that as a deal source or a source, and then go to columns, go to 1 by 1, and then we just need our forecasted value, and then I'll just check, customize this, make this into the dollar, and then we're going manual and then 2 decimal places. So this is showing me our forecasted value. I probably don't need close won and close lost either as the groups. So if I then go back to our deals board and just reposition this to be here, and then I'll put this one in active. And what we'll also do, we'll say, and also when the stage is equal to discovery, make it 20%. And also when stage is discovery, give me 20% of the deal value. So I don't know, hopefully it will add on top of what we've already got. I think it has. Yes, it has. I just say make these work together, please. Just make sure that they are working together. I think that they are. Yeah, they are. Set formula. So now if I change this to discovery, this should give me 20% of the deal values. Let's say this is 10,000. So it's going to give me 2,000. Awesome. Nice. And now I've got a forecasted pipeline. So I can see our forecasted pipeline, the amount of money in our pipeline that's forecasted based on the probability of conversion. Now we can then take this a step further as well, and we can actually have a bar graph. So we would a bar graph showing the forecasted value by the expected close date as well. So we can actually look into the future as a business. So what we would need is to add another column, and it would just keep it simple for the time being, and just call this expected EXP close date. So the sales rep would manually then enter this in. What you could do if you wanted to get really complicated is after a while, or once you've got enough historical data for the average time to close, you could automatically set the expected close date as the average time to close a deal, and then you would have a really accurate forecasting. But let's just say the expected close date for this is the 23rd of next month, and the expected close date for this is the 4th of August, right? So now I've got a deal value, a forecasted value, and then the expected close date. So now what I could do is I could go to my sales dashboard, add a chart widget, and then go to the three dotted button, go to settings, and then our x-axis, actually firstly we just need to select our deals board only, then our x-axis can be the expected close date, and then our y-axis can be our forecasted value. So now I can see what our forecasted value is on a monthly basis, which is unbelievably helpful, because I know, look, there's based on all of the probabilities and the expected close date, I think we're going to do $2,000 in July, and currently we're only doing $500 in August. So really helpful to be able to forecast that information. You're literally looking into the future based on real data you have inside of your organization. So I'm just going to call this forecasted deal value per month. There we go. Cool. Hit enter. There we go. So that's hopefully quite helpful. We've learned a couple of things. Average time to close a deal from a lead coming into the business all the way to close one. We've got the forecasted pipeline value, and then we've got forecasted pipeline value per month as well. Awesome. So the next thing I want to look at is what is our conversion rate from a lead to a deal? Now, this is quite a straightforward one. What percentage of the leads that are created become qualified? And by qualified, that essentially means that when they're qualified, they become a deal. They also become a contact. They also become an account. So quite simple, really. What we want to do is just maybe use a pie chart or something similar to see the difference between the qualified and unqualified leads. Now, what I'm going to do here is just move these to some different groups, just so we've got some data to actually have a look at. So, and I'll change these, change this to qualified, change this to qualified, change this to unqualified, change this to unqualified. There are probably some automations there, but I wasn't 100% sure. So we go to our sales dashboard, add another widget, just add a chart widget in this instance, go to the three dotted button, go to settings. The chart type in this instance is going to be a pie chart. The board we need is just the leads board, so we don't need the deals board. And then the groups, we only want unqualified and qualified. And then the label is going to be one by one. It's going to be the status. The values is going to be the count, and then we can customize to show either as a percentage or just as a value. I would recommend a percentage, and we can see here that our lead qualification percentage, so percentage, is 50%. So out of all of the leads that we generate that are no longer active, we have 50% that are unqualified and 50% that are qualified. Now, the likelihood is it's going to be look more like this. Well, depends how good you are with dealing with your leads, right? But I think, sorry, on here, I've just set this to unqualified, just set this to unqualified as well. So you're more likely going to look like this. 20% of all of the leads that come into the business get qualified and actually end up on the deal pipeline. So now you need to think, if I generate 100 leads, 20 of those leads go onto the deal pipeline. And then we probably need to look at, right, well, what's my sales conversion percentage as well? And then you can start doing some clever maths and work out like, oh, I need to generate X amount of leads to close X number of deals. What do I need to do to generate X number of leads? Well, I need to send 1,000 emails. And then business just becomes numbers, but we'll come on to that. So I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller, tuck this up here, and then let's look at our next report. So the next report I want to look at is stalled deals. So these are deals that have not had any activity associated with them in the last X number of days. So you can define internally what you think is a stalled deal. It's entirely up to you. And then either you can have a list of all of your stalled deals, or you can have a number of stalled deals by month or something like that. I think what's probably going to be best as just a sales dashboard is just a list of all of your stalled deals. So like I said, deals which not had any activity in more than X number of days. In this instance, let's just say 30 days. Okay, so we're going to go to our deals board, and then we need to think about how do we create an activity. So we're going to use the activities function here inside of Monday.com. Now, if you're using Salesforce, when a new task is created or Pipedrive or whatever, you just need to log against the deal the last time a new activity was created. So we're going to have last active date as a date column. So I'm going to go ahead and add that date column. We'll call this last activity. Oh, last activity. There we go. Spelling's really not, it's not a spelling error issue I have, it's a typing issue. I think it's the pressure of being on camera and all of that, you know. So last activity, then we just need to create an automation, go to create, and then we're looking for the emails and activities function up here in this particular instance. And activities, come on, Monday, activities. There you go, that's what I'm looking for. When activity is created in current board, set date to today. Yeah, cool. So when any activity is created, then we need to set the date, last activity, to today. So we're essentially saying if you create a new activity associated with this particular deal, then it will set that particular date to today. So I'm going to go ahead and, just as an example, add an activity. Let's say log a meeting. Yes, meeting. Hit enter. And then you can see that activity is now being created. What should have happened is the last activity now has updated automatically. So what we'd probably do in this instance is hide the column summary. We would also restrict the column editing. And then you can see we've got some data now, right, on when the last activity was. So now if we go to our sales dashboard, we can add a widget. And in this instance, we could either add a chart, or you could just show a table, and I think it's probably easiest to show a table. And then what we'd do is go 3 dotted buttons, settings, and then we don't need the leads board, so we just need the deals board. And then we just want all of the new and active deals. We don't really want to include, there's no reason to include close won deals and lost deals, because obviously they're not going to have any activity associated with them. And then what we're looking for is more settings. You can choose, well, go to, firstly, let's just choose which columns we do and don't want to show. So it's entirely up to you what you do and don't want to show. So we want to go to the filter functionality in the top left hand corner, and then we want to select the board, being the deals board. And what we're looking to do is just say where the last activity is in the last 30 days or 130 days of this. 30. Can get rid of the 1 here. There we go, 30 days. Then it's going to show me all of the deals where the last activity was in the is in the last 30 days. Is that what I'm looking to do? Is in the last 30 days. No. Okay, so after having done some investigation, it appears as if there is not a filter that would work. So I have an alternative solution. Now, I'm almost certain in any other CRM system, this would probably be available, but apparently not inside of Monday, or maybe I'm just missing something. So what we would probably do is add a formula column. So press add and then formula. And then what we want to do is say, AI assistant, make this formula say, what's the terminology that we are using? No activity when the last activity date column is either blank or greater than 30 days old as the last activity. Hit enter. I think this would work. Let's just see what will happen. So if or is blank, last activity, days today, later, yeah, no activity is active. Okay, cool. So now if I change this to the first, that is not no activity. Perfect. There we go. So deal activity status. And now what I can do, hopefully, is go to my sales dashboard and then go to table and then filter by, and then on the deals function, we're going to filter by where the deal activity status is no activity, save filters. So now it's going to show me all of my deals where there's been no activity. Now, if I then change this to the 22nd, that is within the last 30 days, the deal activity becomes active, and then I don't need to worry about it. But this will show you, or it should show you if I press save. I don't know if I press save on the actual filter there. Probably not. No, it has. I have done. So deals with no activity And this is obviously going to show me all of my deals with no activity in the last 30 days that are not either closed won or closed lost. So hopefully that's a useful report. Now, the next report that I want to look at is lost deal reason. Now, this is a really important report to understand why you are losing deals. So on the deals board or within any system, what you would want to have is a status option. Icon to the right, we want a status that says essentially called loss reason, right? So it's going to show you loss reason, all of the different reasons why a deal might not go through. Now, there are some generic options on here like can't afford it. What else? Can't afford it. Too expensive. You know, like you're going to hear that over and over again. Like no sales rep is going to admit to fluffing a deal. But it's good to have a list of different reasons why a deal's not gone through. So let's say too expensive, bad fit, sales failure, gone cold, I don't know, is that a thing? Potentially. So have a think about all of the different reasons. Like if I think about my business specifically, I can think why someone doesn't want to go ahead. Too expensive, bad fit, sales failure, maybe gone cold, stuff like that does happen. And then what you want to do is look at, okay, why have what are the reasons why a deal has failed. So you can go to your sales dashboard, add a new widget, and I probably think just a chart would do it. You go three dotted button settings, and then you could just use a pie chart. And then, we just want our deals here, and then we just want our groups where it's equal to closed lost. Then the label is going to be loss reason, and it's going to show me all of our deals that have been marked as lost. So if I just drag this into this group and this one, where there's a loss reason as well. So if I then go to our sales dashboard, I can see, well, it's actually pretty even split between being too expensive, a bad fit, and then a sales failure. But what you might begin to find is there's a very common thread or common reason why deals are being lost. So let's say oftentimes people are saying it's too expensive. Well, then you need to think about, am I mispriced, or is the value that relates to the price, is there something wrong? Can we offer more value? Or people might just be a bad fit. Okay, well, that's a lead thing. That's a lead issue. So why are people that are a bad fit ending up on the sales pipeline? What can we do to change the qualification process at the lead stage to prevent people from coming onto the deal pipeline when we know they're going to be a bad fit? What other questions do we need to ask? What data points do we need to capture? So this is a very valuable tool, hopefully one. So I'll just call this deal loss reason. What you can also do is you can do a bar chart of a similar fashion for this. So you could say, show me my loss reason by month, and then you could have a stack bar graph. So it show you all of your deals, the loss reason, the totals, and then on a monthly basis. So you might find that you have a bad fit issue, change something on the lead qualification process, and then the bad fit issue begins to go down, and maybe the number of deals that you lose goes down as well. And you could actually literally visually see that on a bar graph. So that's an option for you. Hopefully that makes sense. Cool. So I've got an easy one for you. This is a total revenue generated on a monthly basis. Nice and easy, right? So add widget, we're going to go for a bar chart in this particular instance. Now, the stuff that we need to bear in mind is that we have a closed loss date. So when the date is equal to closed. So when the status of the deal is equal to closed, it sets the date closed as today, or that particular day, which it should do. I'm just going to make sure it has. So we've got date closed, 4th of June. And then obviously we've got a deal value. So let's say this is 10,000, right? So then really simple sales dashboard, revenue per month, hit enter, three dotted button, and then what we're doing is settings, chart type, standard bar graph. Just unselect the leads board as we don't need it. Our x-axis is going to be one by one, is going to be the date closed, and then our y-axis is going to be our deal value. And then we can customize it if we want to. We can add some benchmark lines to say this is the minimum revenue we want to be doing on a monthly basis. And then the groups, the only group that we want is the closed won group. Okay, obviously don't want any of the others. And you can see here in June, we've generated $10,000 in revenue. That's a really simple, easy report. I mean, I probably didn't need to teach you that. I'm sure that was probably quite an obvious one. A slightly less obvious one, however, is cash collected per month. And this is really important to delineate between, because you might have a project that sells for $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. However, cash, how much they're actually paying initially is very different to the revenue which should be generated over the lifetime. Now, cash is essentially what are we collecting on the day of the deal being signed. So often people will charge a percentage of the project. If people can get away with it, they'll charge the full price of the project up front. And we need to work this out because cash is important for our cash flow and also how much we can spend to acquire a new lead or acquire a new sale or acquire a new client. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our deals and we're going to add a new column and we're going to have a deal value, and then it's just going to be a numbers column here, and I suggest you do this for whichever system you're using, and then it's going to be cash collected or something along those lines. Cash collected always to me sounds a little bit sleazy, but there's other terminology that you could probably use, although quite frankly I can't think of what I would use at this very moment in time. But let's say deal value is 10,000, but we've actually only collected 2,500 US this month, or on the conception of the deal. Well, actually it was for this one, wasn't it? 2,500, right? So now if I go to my sales dashboard and I go chart, we go cash collected per month. Hit enter, three dotted button, go to settings, and then we want to unselect boards and we just want our deals board. Chart type is going to be bar graph. X-axis is going to be date closed, of course. Y-axis is going to be the cash collected, not the deal value. And then customize, we can add benchmark lines if we want to, and then the group we want is obviously only closed one here, and then the board, yep, that's all good. So now I can see revenue per month is 10,000, cash collected per month is 2,500. But the important thing to note here is you want the cash collected to be as high as conceivably possible every single month. And also what you probably might want to look at is, if you want to take this a step further, is average cash collected as a percentage, but I'm going to come on to that as a separate report. I'm jumping ahead of the game here. So you've got revenue per month, cash collected per month. Hopefully both of those make sense. So we generate 10,000, that's the agreed deal or in the contract. And of that, we have raised an invoice for 2,500 on conception of the contract or conception of the project. So the next thing we're going to want to look at is average revenue per deal. So obviously every single deal is going to be slightly different. So we want to say, what's the average amount of money we generate per deal? So again, that's really, really simple. What we want to do is just add a widget. It's going to be a numbers column. Position that at the top here. Average revenue per deal. Hit enter. Three dotted button, go to settings, and then we want the deals board, not the leads board. The groups is just going to be closed one, and then the numbers column is going to be one by one. It's going to be deal value. We want to customize this dollar. We want the average manual, 2 decimal places, and then this is going to show me the average revenue per deal. Now, if I change this to 6,000 and then change the status to 1, that will then move to the 1 group, hopefully. There it has. Then I can see on my sales dashboard, actually our average revenue per deal is 8,000 US dollars, okay? Again, really, really helpful. Hopefully that is making a lot of sense and why we want to track our average revenue per deal. If we know our average revenue per deal, we know how much we can spend to acquire a customer. So let's say it costs us $3,000 to acquire a customer. Our average revenue per deal is 8,000. Then you can start looking at what's our average profit as well. And then you can get into like your maximum budget for ad spend, for example. Now, the next really obvious thing is average cash collected per deal. So what is the average amount of cash we collect per deal? So again, add widget, we go to numbers here, and then we press this, put this top right hand corner, average cash collected per deal. Hit enter. Again, 3 dotted button, go to settings, and then the board we want is obviously the deals board. Don't want leads. The group is only closed one. We want to one by one. We want cash collected. Then we just want to look at the average manual, 2 decimal places, and then in the dollar sign, you can see here that the average is 2,500. Now, if I go to our deals board and both of these are 2,500, if I make this 1,000, so that's 10% cash collected on that, you can see how our average cash collected per deal. Again, we're getting an average. We can see what's going on across the entire organization. This allows us to make informed decisions on how long it's going to take for us to get our money back from the ad spend, what our average cash collected per deal is. So the next one that's really interesting or slightly more interesting is the percentage difference between the revenue and the average cash collected. So if I generate 10,000 in revenue but only £1,000 in cash collected, that's a 10% cash collected. So what I want to look at is the formula of what's the difference between the two. So we're going to use a formula column. And then I'm going to click into the formula. Monday's going to let me, or I might have to hit refresh. Second time, monday.com. Come on, guys. Then AI assistant. And then I'm just going to say, give me the percentage difference between the deal value and cash collected. And then hit enter. And then this should hopefully work. Press insert. If deal value is, yeah, okay, no, that's definitely not right. What's gone wrong here? The formula calculates the percentage difference between the deal value and the cash collected. If deal value is greater than 0, it subtracts the cash collected from the deal. No, I need the, no. For example, if the deal value is 10,000 and the cash collected is 1,000, then the percentage value is 10%. See if it works it out. Must be using like ChatGPT or something in the background to do this. Let's see. Insert, set formula, 10%. Cool. So if I change this now to 2,000, 20%. Yeah. Then we can go into here, percentage, and then I'll just hide the column summary. You can see here, we could even round it up, but we can round it up on the sales dashboard anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it. Cash collected percentage. So now I can see, we can work out the average in a moment. What's the average amount of cash collected per deal? So if we go to sales dashboard, and then we're going to go ahead and we'll create another widget again. Super straightforward stuff. Cash collected percentage, 3-dotted button, settings, and then what we can do is we go boards. We just want the deals board. We just want the close one group, and then we want the numbers column 1 by 1 is going to be the cash collected percentage, and then customize. We want an average. We want the percentage, and we want it on the right hand side, and then in manual, and then we can just either, I mean, 1 decimal place actually looks quite nice, you know, 2's pushing it, 3's ridiculous. So we got, now we can see on average, we collect 30.8%. Now, what we could do if we wanted to take this a step further for the cash collected percentage is we could look at it on a monthly basis. Can we say, look at the deals closed by month, so as a total. So let's walk this through. So if we go chart type, now the reason that we would probably want to do this is because we ultimately want to improve the amount of cash collected on a monthly basis, right? So we would go and look at, I think, I'm doing this with you. So let's start with a bar graph here. Go to boards. We just want the deals board. The groups is obviously just going to be the closed one. So don't want any of these. The x-axis is going to be the date closed. Yeah. And then, so that's date closed. Our y-axis in this instance is going to be our cash collected as a percentage. So I can see our cash collected percentage, and then as an average is 30.883% in, yes, this works. This is nice. So that in June, our average cash collected. Now, if I go to deals here, and let's say I just change this date close to the 16th, and go to my sales dashboard. So now I can see, well, our average cash collected in June was 20%, but our average in July was 41%. So now we can start, and ultimately the point of the business is to try and increase the amount of cash collected. We want to look at the performance, and then we can look at the performance on a monthly basis and see how we are improving on our cash collected on a monthly basis. So you've got the cash collected percentage and then on a monthly basis as well. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm just going to say cash collected percentage, cash collected percentage per. I mean, I undid what the whole thing to change the spelling, and they got it wrong again. Oh dear. Cash collected percentage per month. There you go. So they're quite cool. And then the next one I want to show you is new versus existing customer revenue. So and then I'll do that on a monthly basis. So obviously, and especially in my business anyway, we deal with a lot of existing companies. So people that we've worked with either in the past or just have a continuous relationship with, and they continue to spend money with us. And what I like to know, especially for me, is I like to know, well, what percentage of the revenue that we've generated this month has come from new people, so people that we've never heard of before, versus people we've already got an established relationship with. So what I would typically do, and what I actually do, is I have a status column. And then this status column is literally, I just call this, I think we've got it called relationship. And then it's either new or existing. So just in red, existing, and then default is going to give me green. I'll just put new here. Okay, so now every single deal we would mark as either new or existing. Really simple. And then on the sales dashboard, I went very high pitch then. And then on the sales dashboard, what I can do is I can add a widget, and I go chart. And then in this instance, I'll just move this down on the left-hand side here because of my big head. So I go to three dotted button, settings, chart type is going to be a stack bar graph. Our x-axis is going to be our date closed. And then obviously I only want the deals board in this instance. So our x-axis is date closed. There we go. And then our stack by, we're going to stack by, and I don't want the sub items. I just want the stack by the relationship. And it's going to show me on my y-axis. I don't want the count items. I actually want either cash collected or deal value. It's kind of up to you which one. But now I can see, or in July, let's just change this to, let's say, well, actually on the groups, I only want my one deals, don't I? Yeah, of course. So now it's going to show me I've got one deal. So I've got revenue generated by customer relationship. So you can see here now I've got, well, we did 10,000 in new business in June and no existing business in June. And then we've done $6,000 in business in July, but we've not done any new business in July. Now, if I click into this record here and then I move this date close back to today, which is the 4th of June, and then close this down, you can see how that then stacks. So now I can see we've done 6,000, which is 38% of our revenue for June is in existing, and then we've done 10,000 in new. So this is really important to see how your business is performing, whether the new leads that are coming in or whether you're making a lot more money from existing relationships. And this just gives you a really strong indicator. Now, you obviously want both to be as high as possible, right? I mean, you want new people coming into the business, but it's also really important to be able to see who's continuing to spend money with you. If you have no existing business spend, then either you're not doing a very good job, or you're making your customers very unhappy, or you need to find, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same thing. One, you're not doing a good job, you're making your customers unhappy, or you need to find something else to sell them. So you might do a really great job of one thing, but if you can't, the point of business is to get a customer and then keep a customer for as long as conceivably possible. It makes things a lot easier in life. So if the existing is down, you need to do something about getting it up. And obviously if new is down, then you need to fix that problem as well. So hopefully that report helps. Right, cool. So hopefully that's given you some ideas. Now the next thing I want to look at is revenue by lead source. Okay, so it's obviously really, really important. Where is our money coming from? So if we go to our deals here, and you can see here we've got obviously a few different status options. We want to add a new status option, and the status is going to be lead source, right? Lead source. So now we're just going to have a few different lead source options. I'm just going to add them. YouTube, let's say, YouTube, Instagram, I don't know, Facebook, word of mouth, and a few others. And now what we can do is we can begin to look at what is our revenue by lead source. Okay, so YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, word of mouth. I'm sure you'd have plenty of others, maybe newsletters or something like that. But then we want to go to our sales dashboard, and then we want to press add widget and then chart again. And then I'm going to just reposition this to the left here, and then three dotted button settings. And then on this, we will just want our deals, and then our groups, you just want our one deals. And then our chart type is going to be a stacked bar graph. And then our x-axis is date closed. And then our stack by is going to be our lead source, and then our y-axis is obviously either going to be, and this is quite interesting, maybe cash collected is better than revenue, but let's just say deal value for the time being. And you can see here we've done 16,000 deal value in the month of June, but there's no source attribution because I forgot to allocate. So let's just say YouTube and Facebook, obviously YouTube coming in king as per usual. But now we can see if we scroll down, well, in June we did 10,000 in, we did 10,000 from YouTube and 6,000 from Facebook. And then if we go to settings, what we could do, and this is quite interesting, I think actually might be better as a metric, is just look at cash collected instead. So now this is even more interesting. We can see that Facebook is 2,500 cash collected, and then YouTube is 2000. So it depends what you're optimizing for. You could even have both of those. I'm just going to switch it back just to be consistent with what we're doing here, but we do revenue per lead source per month is what that chart is. Revenue per lead source per month. Hit enter. Cool. Nice. So the next one we want to look at is the revenue by product or service. Now, a lot of people have different products or services that they offer, or at least packages. So it's definitely worth tracking. So if I go to our deals here, I've got a couple different products. We've got a cheap product and an expensive product. So actually, I'll probably switch those the other way around. Now, I definitely think it's worth tracking on a monthly basis the amount of revenue you've generated by product as well. So again, it's easy to just add a status column or like a product type. And then we would go to our sales dashboard here, add a widget, chart type's going to be the same again, reposition it accordingly, 3 dotted button, settings, chart type is going to be a stack bar graph. Or actually, before we do that, we need to think about where we're getting our data from. So we just need it from the deals board. The group is going to be closed one, and then our x-axis on here can be date closed. Hit enter. Our stack by is going to be where is our stack by? We are stacking by in this particular instance the product, and then our y-axis is going to be our cash collected or our deal value. It's entirely up to you per month. So we've got revenue by product per month. Again, really helpful to see which products are actually generating us more money. You can see here that obviously we only have 2 deals for this month, so the expensive product is inevitably going to win. But what you might find is you're actually generating more revenue from your cheaper product, or maybe you think you're putting a lot of effort into one product, and actually another product that you've not really put much effort into is actually generating a significant portion of your revenue. So again, it's good to see which product is generating you more revenue and which product is generating you less. And again, you can see this over an expanded period of time as well. So if one product begins to outperform another, or you put more effort into one product but it doesn't really move, you can assess this information and you can see exactly what's going on within your sales pipeline and obviously your business. The next one we want to look at is a really simple one. Again, number of leads generated per month. Okay, so we've got chart here, and I'll probably leave that at the top, should be all right. Go to settings, leads per month. So how many leads are we generating on a monthly basis? 3 dotted button, go to settings here, and then obviously we both know what we want to look at, right? So our boards is leads, not deals. Our groups is all of them, so it doesn't matter. And then it's a bar graph, and then 1 by 1 is going to be date created, is our x-axis. Then our y-axis is literally going to be count. So now I can see that in October 2024, we generated 2 leads, February is 1 lead, and then June 2025 is 2 leads. Well, that is a bit patchy, our lead generation. But obviously, if you're using this, you can see what it is on a monthly basis. Now, the next thing we then want to look at is what is the number of leads we're generating on a monthly basis by our source. So I'm literally just going to duplicate this. So I press duplicate, hopefully scroll down again, and then leads per month by source. There we go, source, hit enter, and then we go 3 dotted button, go to, not full screen, want to go to settings here, and then chart type is going to be stacked this time. Our y-axis is still date created. Our stack by in this instance is the lead source, so hopefully we have that. If we don't, oh, we do, there we go. Clearly they're all empty, and then our y-axis is obviously our count. Then I can click into this, and let's just assign some lead sources. So Google PPC, you can see they're a little bit different here. And then I'll click into this one. Let's say this was YouTube organic, and then let's say, I don't know, these 2 were FB ads, right? Must have done this a little while ago, but now you can see, right, this is a leads we've generated on a monthly basis by the different sources. Now typically there'll be all sorts of different sources broken down here, but this is quite an easy and visual way to see the number of leads that you're generating. Now the number of leads versus the qualified leads are entirely different. So you might actually want to look at, show me the qualified leads per month by source, and then you can cross-reference that against the people that have actually sold as well. So those are interesting data points to look at. So that's exactly what we are going to look at next. As opposed to leads, we just want to look at the number of deals generated per month by source. So again, we would just add a new chart, and it would be, let's see if I can maybe reposition this across just so you can see. We go deals per month by source, hit enter, then we go 3 dotted button, settings, and then in this instance we want the deals board, the groups is all of them, chart type is a bar graph, x-axis is going to be the date created, and then our y-axis, no, date created is going to be a stack bar graph, date created, then stacked by the lead source on the deal. So just click into that lead source, and then our y-axis is going to be count items. Okay, so this is going to show me the number of deals created per month by the different sources. So you can see I've had one that's empty for some reason. So let's just click into this, go Instagram. So now I can see in June, we've had one Facebook, one Instagram, and one YouTube. Okay, so you can see how this just, again, is helpful to know of all of the qualified, of all of the leads that are generated, which deals are we, which leads are qualifying, which sources are qualifying, and then where's the revenue coming from as well. So you can look at revenue generated by revenue per lead source, for example, which is just the one below here. And then the final thing we want to look at in this segment is the number of deals closed per source. So not the revenue generated per source, but just the number of deals closed per source. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate deals per month by source, and then what I'll change this to is deals 1 per month by source. 3-dotted button, go to settings, and then chart type, again stacked. X-axis is the same, stack by is the same, the y-axis is the same. The only difference is we just want to hide all of the groups apart from close one. So now we can see on a monthly basis, deals 1 per month by source, 1 from Facebook, and then 1 from YouTube. So it's very similar. Again, it's just helpful to track by numbers as opposed to revenue, because you know they don't match entirely, right? So just another data point to bear in mind here. Another final 2 reports I want to go through are more to do with sales reps. So if you have a team of salespeople within your organization, then these are a couple of things, and there's a lot more to add to this. Like, this is only 20. I mean, I could probably go on forever, but so I thought 20 you probably should know, right? So add another widget, and this is going to be by sales rep. Okay, so this is revenue generated per month by sales rep. Hit enter. Cool. So now I'll just reposition this across here. What we want to do is go to the 3-dotted button, and then the board that we want is obviously the deals board, and then the groups is the 1 only, and then our chart type is going to be a stacked bar. X-axis is date closed, so show me all of the deals where the date is closed, stacked by the owner of the deal. Then the y-axis in this particular instance is going to be the deal value. Okay, so now if I go back to our deals board, and then I'll assign myself and then assign Alex to this, and then I can go back to my sales dashboard, and I should be able to see the revenue generated per month by sales rep. So I've done 10,000 and Alex has contributed 6,000. Now the very final report that I want to show you is, again, if we just duplicate this is going to be very, very similar, and I'll just reposition this accordingly. Go to the 3-dotted button, go to settings, and then all we want to do is change our y-axis from deal value to cash collected. So now we've got cash collected per month by sales rep. So what you might find is actually, well, Alex is not performing so well on the revenue side, but he's actually brought in more cash, like physical liquid cash, into the business than I have. And it looks from a revenue side of things that I'm doing a better job. But in reality, I think obviously cash is king. In my opinion, cash is king. I'd rather have cash coming into the business without question than I would have just getting these arbitrary revenue figures, because people might not pay, projects go wrong, things happen, people disappear. We've had this a few times where, you know, like recently someone got some point of contact within the organization that we were working with. They actually got fired on the spot for some unrelated situation that they were in, and that was the only point of contact we have with the project. And then they disappeared, obviously vanished. Fortunately, they stayed in communication with me, and it took me almost 2 months for us to retrieve the money. And the project was pretty much done when he disappeared. So that was a complete disaster. And, you know, that's why cash is king. Revenue is a guideline, definitely not a solid figure. Cash is what we should be looking at. So in this instance, you can see here that Alex has outperformed me. And then the final report that we're missing anyway is obviously our conversion 1% conversion percentage. So 1 versus loss percentage. So 1 verse.lost percentage. And this, of course, I'm sure everyone knows anyway, but again, 3-dotted button. And then this is for our deals board, not our leads board. And then we just want to see close won versus close lost. And then our chart type is going to be a pie graph, a pie chart, pie graph, whatever. And then it's going to be just the deal status, if I can find it one by one here, and just go stage. And you can see here we've got 100% success rate. We've never lost a deal in our lives. So if I just make that a little bit smaller, and then what I'll do is I'll reposition this up here, and then move that across. And then what I will do is, unfortunately, we'll have to go and reality check us. So lost and then lost as well. And then we've got our sales dashboard. We can see here that we've got evidently a 50% conversion rate. So we've got, out of all of the deals that we generate, we've got 50% conversion rate, anything that ends up on the pipeline. So, you know, do what you will with the numbers that are now available to you within your organization. Hopefully this video has been helpful in giving you a good insight into data tracking, sales reporting, why it's important to track this information. There's a lot more to this. Again, there's also a lot of nuance to every single organization. So I can't make blanket statements about what applies to one business and what doesn't apply to another. For instance, cash collected might not be a thing for some businesses. Maybe they're working with very large organizations and they reliably pay, or you know, there are a lot of things to factor in. But hopefully this has given you a good idea of how to set up some reports for your business. Thank you ever so much for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.